This video will take you through the steps necessary to take prior to each home meet. Step number 1 is to verify entries for home meets. After the deadline, you can check Team Unify by signing in as a super user, going to the Events tab, and clicking on the Invited Teams oval. We're going to go back to an old meet and click on that Invited Teams oval. Once you've clicked on that, it will take a moment to think, and then it will bring up the teams and we can see if entries have been submitted by both of the coaches. So here it's coming up that entries submitted, that 2 teams have submitted entries. Entries that have been accepted is 2. If for some reason this just says 1 team has been accepted, you need to go down here, click on the box, and click on Accept Teams. And the invited status here would go from unaccepted to accepted. Even though we invite teams to our away team, or invite teams to our home meets, we still have to accept that we want them at our home meets. So usually this step is done when you're setting up your meets, but if for some reason you forget this step, you can simply fix it by clicking here and accept the teams, and that goes from unaccepted to accepted, and then you'll see 2 here. And that has to happen for the sync to work. You can also see down here at the entry submitted the date and time that the team got their entries in. If this says no, then their entries are not in. If the sync deadline has passed and is closed, you'll need to edit the event, extend the deadline for the away team, potentially to the following morning, give them some time to get it in, and then go down here, click on the box, click email admins, and send an email to that team explaining that their entries are not in, that you've extended the deadline, and to please get their entries in so that you can run the meet. So I usually take a look and make sure the entries are in right after the deadline for our home meets, so that if the entries are not in, I can get a hold of the team and give them some time to get it in, so we're not waiting till the last second. So this should happen before a home meet, sometimes kind of right after those deadlines, which are here. So that way you're not waiting till the last second to make sure entries are in. Once the entries are in, you can move on to step number 2. 2 is to do your touchpad sync. Touchpad is the software that we use to run a meet. So we need to go into touchpad and we need to hit the sync button that it syncs with the swim team office that allows the data to go from Team Unify, the web page, into the software that runs the meet. So we're going to move out of here and we're going to go to touchpad. That's down here. And the first thing you would do is go File, select an existing meet, and find the meet that you are having as your next meet. After you've found that, clicked on it, then you are here. I've already clicked on this old meet, and this is the one we're going to use. But always verify that you are now on the meet that you want all this data in. So this is always important to be double checking that the name of the meet and the date aligns with the home meet that you are dealing with. It is then that you go to File, Sync Now to Swim Office, and this, you'll click on that, you'll wait a moment for it to sync. It will usually say syncing, and then this would normally have all zeros or blanks, and then it will switch once the sync is done to the number of athletes, how many individual events are happening, number of relays, and 2, our dual meets always have 2 teams. If for some reason that came up as just 1 team, that would mean that one of the entries didn't get in and you have to figure out which team didn't get their entries in and go back. But I usually check those entries first on Team Unify, but so always make sure you have 2. If the sync isn't working, it might be that your syncing is off. This is the on-off button. See how it says syncing is on? But if you click that, it's now syncing is off. So you have to make sure that you wish to turn on syncing, yes. And that allows it to communicate with that Team Unify webpage. The next step is to then move on. So once all the data's in, to step number 3. Begin to prepare your heat sheet and touchpad. Seed the meet. This puts the swimmers into the correct heat based on their best time. So the computer does most of this work for you, but you would go to seed. Oh, where's my mouse? This is an old meet, so it's giving me this error saying, wait a second, this is already an over meet. Do you really want to seed? For this example, we are going to say yes. So you wouldn't normally get that warning, but then you have to make sure you're seeding it where you're doing dual meet, even, odd. Dual meet using even, odd lanes. Okay? And then what we do is we put in the odd lanes is the home team, and in the even lanes is the away team. So identify the teams to be in the odd lanes is the Barracudas. Identify the team in the highest lane of fastest heat for odd lanes. Oh, it won't let me change that, but I think we can just leave that. Highest lane of the fast heat for odd lanes. Not sure if I normally change that, but I think it's usually this that they end up in the even odd, which one's in the odd lane. And then what do we want to seed? We want to seed all of the races. The number of races in this meet is up there, 76. If it's time trials, for example, it's not quite 76 races, but we're going to seed the whole meet. There are a few cases where you might go back and seed a race. So maybe you're going back and saying, I just want the computer to reseed race 6. But in most cases, we're just seeding the whole thing. And you would click seed these events. So you click on that. The computer does the work of knowing who's fastest and putting them in heats based on their best time. So once you've done that, then you can go ahead and manually adjust the heat sheet. So you can go ahead and go in and print yourself a sample heat sheet the night before. So you go to heat sheets and print preview and print a sample heat sheet for the meet. Here is a sample heat sheet. When looking at the heat sheet, you're going to look at same age, same race, boy, girl. And you're looking to see if you can combine any races. You're also looking to make sure heat 1 is full. So for example, we have same race, 15-18, 50-yard free, same race, but it's boys here. And we have Rosie and Thomas. They're both the only people swimming in the second heat. So they can swim together, but currently the computer has Rosie in lane 2 and Thomas in lane 2. Well, if they're going to swim in the same race together and combine these two, they're not going to swim in the same exact lane. So to help things out, we're going to move Thomas and the computer to lane 3, and then it will be easy for these two kids to swim together. Rosie can swim in lane 2, and Thomas can swim in lane 3. Other examples, let's see, all of these heats are full, so that's looking pretty good. I think I'm seeing another one here. Here we have girls 13-14 200-yard medley relay, and boys 13-14 200 medley relay. In the girls, we're using lane 2 and 3, but we have lane 1 empty and we have lane 4 empty. And we only have one relay for the boys going, so the boys could really swim with the girls. But the boys can't swim in lane 3 because the girls are already swimming in lane 3. So we'll move these boys down to lane 4 in order to allow these two to easily combine during that race. There are other times where the computer will not put heat 1 full. For example, this has already been adjusted, but at first the computer will not make heat 1 full if it isn't even. So here we only had one Huntington swimmer. this would have put only 3 swimmers up here. It would have put the top 2 Huntington Estates and then our Huntington, and it would have left lane 4 empty. We always make heat 1 full. They can't all score. Only 2 from that team will score, but it's kind of up to whether or not it's Paxson, Alexander, or Dylan that's going to get the points, but only 2 of the 3 from that team can get points. But we do make heat 1 full. So the computer, this one would be an example of when we pull up, make sure heat 1's always full, and then combine boys and girls, same race, same age whenever possible, and put the kids manually into lanes that make it easy to do. So again, for example, we said, oh, Rosie and Thomas in race or events 1 and 2 could easily swim together, but we had to move someone to a different lane. So we're going to go ahead, sorry about that, and go to enter results and do some moving around of the heat sheet. So I'm going to go to race 1 and 2, and we're going to see Rosie for the girls in 1. So there's Rosie. She was in lane 2. That's fine. But then in this event next, Thomas couldn't swim in the same exact lane, but if we move him down 1, then, do you want to make this change? Yes, I do. Then he can swim in that lane, and that's easy to do. We also said that that medley relay, the event 9 and 10, there was some changes that could be made. So 9, well, we have the girls in lane 2 and 3, and then boys are next. Lane 2 and 3, well, the boys can't swim in 3 if the girls are in 2 and 3, so we can move the boy relay down to that 4th lane, and then they can easily swim together. Easy change. Now, after you've made all of those kind of changes, heat 1 is full. You've kind of noticed which ones you can combine girls and boys pretty easily. You're really ready now to move on to the following day where the meet starts. I usually bring this heat sheet. I would print it one more time with Rosie and Thomas in the right lanes and all of that. I'd write at the top, night before heat sheet. I'd draw lines like Kenny is going to swim with, or I'm sorry, yeah, Rosie Kenny is going to swim with Thomas Ranchik. I would draw a line connecting those two to remind myself that we're going to combine those 2 heats. On that medley relay, once the boys got moved down and the one we would reprint, I would then draw a line that we were going to combine these 2. And then I bring this sheet in the morning so I remember which heats of boys and girls we think we're going to combine. So again, the night before, you're just making sure that entries are in. You move the entries to touchpad because that has to be done with Wi-Fi access. So you do that the night before, and then if there's any trouble, you have time to figure it out. And then making sure the heat sheet is about as ready to go as possible. There's always last minute changes the morning of, but if you can clean up the heat sheet the night before, make sure heat 1 is full, combine boys and girls, you're in a good place in the morning to make just a few final last minute changes. So the last thing that are on the notes to do is that you can back up the current meet at this point. So you can go to the File tab. Right now we're in Enter Results. The actual touchpad software, you're just kind of opened almost like a window on top of a window here. You can close out of this, and you'll see here the touchpad software is just hiding behind. You could do File, Backup Current Meet. I don't always do this. I used to back up all the time. I've not really had trouble, but this basically would save the data on touchpad as it is right at this very moment, but the night before there really isn't any data yet. You just have the swimmers' names in there, so there's not a whole lot to back up, but that is something that I suggest doing, but with time I haven't done with every single meet. And then you're ready for the following day.